recording and we'll go ahead, and then if she hops on, great. If not, I'll just send her the recording. Does that sound okay?
Yeah.
Okay. All right, because she's in Poland, so I think it's like 7 or 9 hours different. So I'm hoping that we've got the time right. But, okay.
So would it be afternoon there, or
yeah?
Is it okay?
Yeah. So it's like 9. 20. I don't know if it's 4 or 6 there. 4, 5, or 6 there. I'm not sure, but yeah.
Well, she'll get the information, so this is good.
Yeah.
So I thought maybe I could do an introduction of the pelvic floor, since I'm a pelvic floor therapist, like show you the anatomy, and then Kylie, this will be like part of.
Oh, here she is. Okay, there's Erin. Can you see us and hear us?
Yes.
Okay, cool. All right. So Janine is going to start with anatomy of pelvic floor with us today. All right.
So you guys know that the pelvic floor is just one of the 4 core muscles. Like the abdominal wall is one muscle, and then the pelvic floor, and the diaphragm is another, and then the back muscle. So together they create this corset that kind of holds everything together. So I looked at your screen that you sent, Erin, and you know, this goes with a lot of the people that we treat. When the core is not working, there's problems that happen. So in my practice, I treat anybody from pelvic pain to urinary leaking to frequent urination. So I'm going to tell you guys what's normal, because I think part of the issue is we don't know what normal is. And so this is like where you guys want to strive to get. You want to get to less than 8 voids in a 24-hour period. Okay, so that means at night too, not getting up at night. Now, we get up at night frequently because we're up with the kids, or because it's a habit, or sometimes I get up on occasion just because I haven't drank enough during the day and I'm trying to get my liquid in so I don't get, muscle cramps in my legs. But that should be a rare thing. That shouldn't be like an every night thing. So you shouldn't be getting up every single night. And even when you're 80 or 90, unless you're on like a diuretic or you have diabetes or some other medical condition. But if you don't have a medical condition that makes you wake up at night, there's no reason to get up. So, it's a myth that we have to get up in the middle of the night to empty our bladder or we're going to get a bladder infection. Have you guys heard that? Like, it's like we're afraid to go sleep through the night because we might end up like having a UTI or something like that. So that is not true. But if you do have to get up at night and your urine stream doesn't last at least 8 seconds, then you really didn't have to go.
Okay.
I feel like I'm muted.
No, you're good.
No, I muted myself.
Oh, okay. Sometimes I feel like I'm talking and nothing.
No, we got you.
We hear you.
Okay. So the rules are less than 8 times in a 24-hour period. So you should be making less than 8 trips to the bathroom. So this is good for you to hear, Erin.
Yes.
Not getting up at night, and even some urologists will say 1 time a night is normal. I still think that we need our deep sleep, and if you're young, you shouldn't be getting up at night. So I think it's a goal. You should be able to get to less than 8 voids in a 24-hour period and not getting up at night. And when you do go to the bathroom, your stream should last at least 8 seconds. Okay. So those are my rules. And your urine stream should be like a little fountain. It shouldn't be a spray. If it's a spray, that means the pelvic floor muscles are tight. So here's what we now know. I've been doing pelvic floor therapy for 20 years. Before that, I did orthopedics, and I still do orthopedics. But when we first started doing pelvic floor rehab, we told everybody to Kegel. And you know what Kegels are. It's like tightening your pelvic floor. Well, now what we're finding out is people have tight muscles, not weak muscles, okay? So this idea that your muscles go from here to here, okay? So if you're already here and you try to Kegel, you're not getting anywhere. It's like trying to, this is my other example, like, you're trying to do a bicep curl and your arm has this much motion. It doesn't make any sense to try to go through that range of motion. The muscle has to be at its full length before it can contract. That's the issue that we see with so many people that have pelvic floor dysfunction, because the pelvic floor muscles have to relax. So they relax for the bladder to squeeze, okay? So if you've got this tension in the pelvic floor, the bladder will relax and it won't squeeze all the urine out. So it's a reflexive thing. The bladder is waiting to get information from the pelvic floor, but if the pelvic floor is all tight and dysfunctional, it's totally confused. So does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay. So it's a really simple concept, but it's not something that like I even knew as a physical therapist. I had to learn this later. Most women don't know this. We don't understand that, like when we go to the bathroom, we're not supposed to strain to get the urine out. I have so many patients who will tell me, oh, I have to squeeze to get that last little drop out. Well, if you have to squeeze, then you're clenching when you should be relaxing, okay? And the other thing is all the sphincters, like your oral sphincter, your esophageal sphincter, all the sphincters communicate with each other. So if you clamp down and go like that when you're either trying to give birth, poop, or pee, all your sphincters are clamping down too. And so the rectal sphincter and the urinary sphincter, those are sphincters that are supposed to be relaxed and open when we go to the bathroom.
Yeah, that's why in labor, I've told women sometimes to open their mouth. Yeah.
Open the jaw. So there has been a lot of information lately that says like if somebody has TMJ or like they're clenching in their jaw, they probably have pelvic floor dysfunction too. So the two are related. So, it starts to be a full body. I treat the whole body. I don't just look at the pelvic floor. I look at it as a bigger picture because it's what is going on in the rest of the body that dictates the tension in the pelvic floor. So with that, how do we get rid of that tension in the pelvic floor? So that's the question. Because if you can get it to a normal length, then you can get the muscles to contract properly. And then when they contract properly, guess what? You're not leaking, you're not peeing all the time, you're not getting up at night, and you can have pee-free sex. So like it should be pee-free on most attempts. And pleasurable. So that's the other thing. I'll get patients who come in, they're like, I'm good, I'm ready to be on my own. And I'm like, well, are you feeling what you should be feeling? And they still aren't. So I have to work with them until they're feeling, it should feel good. It shouldn't feel like, and that's the guarding part that we get, from trauma, from childbirth or past history or even abuse, so there's a lot of things that go on that dictate that tension. I know, I've had people tell me they've fallen on their tailbone or they've fallen on their bike or in a tree, where they're like split right on their pelvic area. So those are traumas, and those traumas can occur when we're kids, and then they carry on. Like some girls have pelvic floor dysfunction before they've even had babies because they've had clenching from sports, like they've landed on their pelvis too many times. The classic ones are like volleyball players and basketball players, and goodness. So I'm starting to see a broader like age range, it's not just your 80-year-old. Like when we started this program at the hospital years ago, it was like all our 65 and older group. Now we're like, I'm seeing girls in their 18 and they're leaking, and it even goes earlier than that, depending on their sport. So it's a very big problem, and we need to talk about it because if we don't talk about it, these solutions don't get solved. So, these problems. So, like this week is World Continence Week. So all of us PTs are out there all over social media trying to talk about making people know what normal is. I just posted something yesterday about that. So, we tend to think our normal is normal because we've been doing this for years, but it's really not. All right, so that's my soapbox. All right, I'm going to show you the model of the pelvic floor. So let me grab it. All right, so this is a real size model, okay? So this is pelvis. I think we'll call her, well, I was going to call her Penny the pelvis maybe. I need a P name. I have a better name. I can't use Polly because now I know somebody with that name that's going to be in my family, so I can't use Polly the pelvis. I got to. Anyways, okay, so if you look at the pelvis, this is looking down into the bowl of the pelvis. Okay, so to orient you, these are your hips. This is your spine, right here. Okay, and then this is the pubic bone in the front. Okay, so this is front, this is back. Okay, this is looking down. So this would be like me standing and looking down into my pelvis like this. Oh. I have a hard time keeping her together. All right, so on the front part, looking at, like if you're going to the doctor, you're getting examined. This is what, if you removed all the layers on the outside, what you would see. See, the clitoris is up here, the urethra is in there, the vagina is there. This is called the perineum. So this is where we get cut or have stitches a lot of times. And then here is the rectum, okay? That first layer, triangle, is called the urogenital triangle. Okay, so that is the first layer. And there's muscles in here, you don't need to know the name of them, but what I will say about this is if this first layer is tight, you're gonna have spraying, you're gonna have feeling like you have to go to the bathroom, and the inner thigh muscles attach right to this bone right here. So that's for the groin muscle. If they're tight, there's a good chance that you have urinary frequency. So a lot of the patients that I treat, I always check their hip range of motion, and I'll show you this here, and I've already shown Kylie, but we want to make sure that the hips are moving sufficiently because the hips attach into this. Okay, so this is looking at the bottom again, or straight down through the bottom. Let me get my frame of reference. It's so hard to do this from, I feel like a weather lady. That's the rectum. Okay. That's the vagina, and then that's the urethra up front here. Where is it? Okay. Can't see from that angle. It's that little circle, if you can see that up front. Okay. So the sling of the pelvic floor is literally a hammock that goes into one of the two. Here's the pubic bone, here's the tailbone, and it literally makes a sling. Okay. So from the side view, it's like this. Okay. Now, that's looking into it. This muscle right here, this red muscle, this is the hip. This is called obturator internus. So your pelvic floor is literally being lifted on the ends like a hammock. So if you've got a hammock like this, if you took the ends of the hammock and you pulled it, it would kind of draw the pelvic floor up. So you could have tension in one of your hips that throws off the tension on the inside. Okay, so you want to make sure that your hips are mobile so that the inside has its best chance of contracting. Okay, so you guys with me?
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Yes.
All right, so I wish you could feel this and like see how like where it's at anatomically. Like it's kind of hard. It's not as three-dimensional for you guys as it is. Okay. Now, if we go back to the front, this right here, this is the top layer. So there's three layers. There's this layer, which is surface. Okay. Underneath this is another layer. This is called the levator ani, and this is literally the bowl, because if we took this out, there'd be nothing there. Okay. So literally, like this is the bottom of the bowl of the pelvis, and this is three muscles, but you don't need to know the names of those. You just need to know that this collectively is called the pelvic floor. Okay, so again, from the inside view, it just kind of traverses from the tailbone to the pubic bone. That's the muscle we're contracting when we do Kegels. Okay. Now, this is important, for people who have pain with penetration, because if you have tightness here, right at the entrance, this is like, I release the top layer first before you get to the deeper layer. Because some women will have pain with penetration. That's that layer. If it's just at the entrance, it's this layer. Okay? And some women have both tightness here and tightness there. Okay? So to get this tension out of here, on the front, I'm going to show you how to release that with your hand, because what you're going to want to do, see this muscle here and here, this is called the transverse perineal. This muscle is very tight on most people who have entrance pain. Okay, there's also nerves that come through here, go to the inner thighs, which is why I think the inner thigh has to be addressed too. If the nerve that comes out of this gets trapped by this tension, you're going to have tight inner thigh muscles. So you're going to have pain, like in your groin or in your SI joint. So we have to get rid of the tension here so that the hips can move. Okay, so it's kind of like they play on each other. If the hips are tight, the pelvic floor is tight. If the pelvic floor is tight, the hips are tight. So it kind of goes together. Okay, you guys with me?
Yes.
Great.
Yeah.
So Kylie, when I was trying to explain this to you last week, I was at home, so I didn't have my model with me. But when we were talking about pressing on the muscles on the outside, I was talking about these two muscles right here.
Okay.
Okay, so I look at it like a clock. Okay, so if you look at this, so this would be like me looking at you at the gynecologist, like, you know, you're on your back with your knees up and your legs are spread. Top is 12 o'clock, back is 6 o'clock, this side is 3 o'clock, this side is 9 o'clock. Okay, so when I say 3 and 9 o'clock, I'm really referring to this right here.
Okay.
Okay, now up here, if we go up a little bit, this could be 10 o'clock and 2 o'clock. So sometimes it's tighter up here. And then sometimes it's even tighter at like 1 and 11 o'clock, okay? But 9 and 3 is a good place to start, because if you press there and then you go further back, I don't know if you can see this shelf here, but this is deeper. So again, that's that muscle underneath, okay? So you'll know, because when you're on your back, you'll feel it, like you palpate here, and then if you go back far, you'll go, oh, it's kind of squishy. And what these muscles should feel like, they should feel like the thumb, like your flesh on your thumb, okay? So kind of soft, you know, not hard, not rigid. When I press on these muscles on my patients, typically they're very clay-like, very solid, not normal, like they don't feel soft, and one side feels tighter than the other, okay, typically. So if you have tension on one side more than the other, then you're going to want to make sure they're equal, because again, that pull from the hips is going to impact the tension on the pelvic floor. Okay.
And this is on the outside, not inside. You're talking about pushing on the outside of your skin.
Okay. Yes. So here, I'll show you. I'll lay on my back and show you what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
I was trying to demonstrate this last week, but we hit a wall because I didn't have all my tools. So here we go. Hold up. All right, so if you lay on your back, I have a computer, so I can't put it up. Hold on a second. All right, my cords are limiting me. Hold on. All right, so I'm on my back like this, okay? And I'm just pressing here and here. Okay, does that make sense?
Yes.
Right. Check in here too, because this is probably really super tight. Now for that, what I usually do, well, I get dry needles. That's one thing I had done yesterday because my inner thighs were screaming at me. I can clench there too. This right here is what you can do to see if you have tension there. So you just kind of take your opposite hand and go up against your groin on either side. You can go the length of your leg too, like you can go all the way down. And usually there'll be some tenderness in there. If you find a spot that hurts, you just hold pressure on it. You can hold your thumb. You can use a tool, like an object to press on it, a ball, like you can push a small little dog ball up against it. Whatever you want to do. I'm going to show you my dilator here too, because this can help. This is a tool that you can use internally, but let me show you from the outside. Whoops. Okay, so this is what a dilator looks like. This is like a plastic tampon that you can kind of use to push onto that. So I can push a lot harder with this than I can with my hand. Okay, likewise, you can use this to insert and kind of go around and work the inside. So let me show you guys that. Because this is kind of what I was talking about with, you know, we can either have our husbands help us, or we can use a tool. The tool is good for people who want to control it themselves, okay? So, you know, if you first of all don't trust that your husband or partner knows what they're doing when they go to do this, you might be a little afraid. So this kind of desensitizes you, or like might make you feel like that you're in control, okay? And then here's what I want you to think about. There's 3 layers, okay? Now this is the length of my finger. The first knuckle is the first layer. The second knuckle is the deeper layer. And then you're never going to insert it further than that point, okay? Because you've still got to hold it. So you just kind of go around that clock that I was talking about, and you look for tension, okay? So I usually give these to my patients to augment what I'm doing here in therapy. Like if I have to do internal work on them, then I use this dilator, or I don't use it. I have them use it at home, because I want them to keep the tension good Like, for example, if they're having pain with penetration, I have them for 10 minutes kind of lengthen the muscles first. You know, like if you're going to be in a race, you want to make sure that your muscles are stretched before you run that race. Okay. If you're an athlete and you are warming up, you want to warm up before the event. So you want to warm up before you have sex, because then your muscles will be ready and prepared. Okay.
When you tell them to do that, are you telling them to breathe with their diaphragm or with that?
To do what? To breathe with their...
To lengthen their pelvic floor. How are you telling them to do that?
So first of all, lengthening the pelvic floor is first through the diaphragm. Okay. So the diaphragm breathing that you guys are doing is going to help lengthen, because your diaphragm up here under your ribs and your pelvic floor down here. Can you see my hand? Okay. So they move together. Okay. So when you inhale, they go down, and when you exhale, they go up. And it's more like they go from like convex to concave or concave to convex. So they don't really, it's not like it's moving like inches. It's just more that it's like coming up and down with the breath. Okay. Like a balloon, like it's kind of like a parachute. Like you're inhaling and it's parachuting down, and then you're exhaling and it's coming up. So when you inhale, you're lengthening your pelvic floor. When you exhale, you're contracting it. Okay. So I would first start with that on your back. And I have so many people that have trouble breathing. I mean, I'm holding my breath half the day because I have a schedule to keep, you know, and I'm sure you guys are running kids around and doing stuff too. How many kids do you have, Erin?
I have 2 biological and 1 adopted.
Okay. And then Kylee, what do you have, 3?
2 girls and a stepson who's...
Okay. So you guys are busy and I'm busy too. So I know, and Olivia, you're busy. Like, we're all so busy. So what do we do when we're busy? We go underwater. Like we're going to go under and hold our breath. And so that's part of the problem, is that we're running around. And if we don't practice this lengthening, like when we're not busy, when we're busy, we're not going to be able to do it. Okay. So being mindful of your breathing is going to be really key, and making sure that you do the diaphragm breath. So the exercises that Olivia gave you are going to it's going to help to coordinate these muscles better. But you're going to have a better chance of getting those muscles to work if you have length in your hips. Okay. So I'm going to show you another thing here that I check on everybody. So when people come in to see me, I want to make sure their upper back is moving, so their thoracic spine is moving, and their hips are moving, because the core can't stabilize if above and below it are tight. And when the core is weak, then above and below usually gets tight to compensate and hold it together. So that's an issue. Like a lot of people have upper back issues and tight inner thighs and hip muscles, because that's what's holding us together in the absence of the core doing its job. So those are the issues that I see here in my clinic. So this thing I'm showing you with the dilator and this thing where you're palpating, it's just more for awareness to see, especially if you have pain with penetration, then that's a good thing to do. So if you were to, let me finish that thought. If you have pain with penetration, so this is going back, Kylee, to what we talked about last week. Okay, so you're on your back. You can either use the dilator, or you can ask your husband to help you with this. Okay, so, and I usually have them come in here and I show them the model and I show them what I'm doing so that they can see exactly what's going on here. But so you first take it to the entrance. So I'm gonna, let's just say like 12 o'clock is up, 3 o'clock's this way, 9 o'clock's this way, 6 o'clock is down. You only go in like a 1 knuckle depth, so like that much. Okay, so you're not going in that far, and you're just kind of checking the tension around the clock. So you can also think north, south, east, west, you know, so if you don't want to use the clock, you can use something else. So that's the first part. After that layer, you're going to have the deeper layer. Okay, so same thing. You're going to kind of go around the horn, and from the inside, this is what it looks like. You're kind of just like palpating along around here. And then you go to the corner, which is that one. So from my viewpoint, when I'm working on somebody, sometimes I have to work and hit that hip muscle from the inside. Okay. Now the same muscle, so I would go like, and this is behind the pubic bone, so this is at 11 o'clock and 1 o'clock. This is back here like 6 o'clock, so I usually do like 5 and 7 o'clock, kind of around the horn, and then I go deeper and I get on that. So if you're on your back, this is what I'm doing. I'm hooking onto it, okay? So I'm hooking onto that muscle right there, which you can also reach from the outside. If you kind of go like this, it's right there, okay? So I often will tell people to check this. So what you do is you're on your side, and you usually have like a bolster or something holding your top leg, and this one's kind of small, so you can like fold up a pillow or something, put your leg on it, because you want your knee and your hip to be in a straight line. You don't want to be like that, okay? So you go like that, and then you take your thumb, or you could use a tool, or you can ask your husband for help, and you go back on your sit bone, and you kind of like angle it into that spot. So it's kind of like the same, it's the same muscle, it's just you're getting it from the outside. So some of these muscles are accessible from the outside, and some of them are accessible from the inside. So if you're not having luck on the outside, then maybe help for the inside, which you can do on your own with a tool, or you can ask for help. Okay?
So when they're doing that, just like when you pushed on the inner thigh and you said, just hold it, or you find just a sensitive area, is that the same thing when you're going inside? If it's kind of hurts or it's sore, would you hold it for just a little bit? Okay.
Maybe a minute.
Okay.
Yeah. If it radiates, so muscles, like if you pressed on your shoulder, this might be tender, but if you press up on the top and it goes up into your head or it goes down, that's called a myofascial trigger point. So those are common in this area as well as they are up in the shoulders. If you press on it and it radiates, so if you press on your inner thigh and it goes down your leg to your knee, or it goes up inside your pelvis, then that's a really mad muscle. Those are the muscles you want to spend more time on, or at least start there, because those are the ones that are capable of producing the most dysfunction, okay? So a myofascial trigger point is not just a tight muscle, but it's a hyperactive muscle. There's a lot of neurological stuff going on, and it's stuck. It's like a muscle that's stuck, and it won't release unless you tell your brain to release it. So the brain's like holding it tight and guarding it and protecting it. And, after we have babies, this happens. I had 3 babies, and with each one, I had a different problem. It's like, one of them I had an episiotomy, another one I tried not to, and I finally had an episiotomy after pushing for 2 hours, but then I ended up with rectal fissures. And my third one, I ended up with a tear on one side because my husband helped deliver the baby because he's a paramedic and they wanted to get him in there. So every baby that I had different issues. So no 2 deliveries are alike, so we get scar tissue from that. And that scar tissue envelops the muscles and the nerves, and then things don't work as they should. And then we get frustrated and we end up having these symptoms that are not normal, but they're very treatable if we know what we're doing, okay? But I really think most of us don't understand this anatomy because nobody told us, nobody taught us. And this is our body, this is really our essence of who we are. I mean, we're sexual beings and we're feminine, and we have to know our body, and nobody's teaching us this, so it really frustrates me. Especially, so I try to empower and teach my daughters because they need to know about their body because we can't see these muscles. They're deep. They're really deep. So.
Frustrates me too.
Yes. So someday, I know in Europe, they're better at teaching this. Like in France, all women get a postpartum visit and maybe 12 visits, but here in America, we get nothing. I was a physical therapist and I had to reinvent the wheel for myself and for my patients. So it's becoming more popular, pelvic floor therapy, but it's also there's still a stigma to it or a taboo, so, which, to me, if you have back pain, you still talk about it, so this is something that you need to get help for, but people are afraid of sharing it because 1, they don't know there's help, and 2, they don't even know that there's a problem, you're told by your doctor, oh, you had a baby, just live with it. I do not believe that. That frustrates me so much.
So I know, I think you have a patient in 8 minutes or something. 7 minutes, is that right?
Yes, I'm good.
Okay. So I was going to say, just real quick, I mean, I can go over it with Erin too, because I know we have with Kylee, but with the thoracic and the hips.
I can show you real quick.
Okay.
Yeah. All right, so one thing you want to make sure that is mobile is your thoracic area. So you could either check it by putting your arms across your chest and turning to the right and turning to the left. That can work, or you can do what I do on my, oh, sorry, hold on. You can check it by turning. So you put your feet together, your arms at your side, and you turn and you look over your shoulder, and then you turn and look over your other shoulder, okay? Now, if you feel tight on one side versus the other, or you feel like it's pulling on your pelvis in one direction than the other, you need to open up that side. Like, you want to move towards the wrist here. So let's just say, because I'm right-handed, I'm always moving this way. I need to rotate this way to the right, because I'm always rotating my spine to the left, okay, in my daily tasks. So the exercise to do for it, there's a couple different things you can do, but one of my favorites is to lay on your side. This is all my props now. Hold on. All right. So you go on your side and you open up. Put your hands like this. And you're going to open up and rotate backwards, okay? So your knees are bent. You can do it this way too, but I don't find I get enough rotation. I have to use my arm to lengthen it and give me leverage. So inhale, open up. You're going to exhale and come back down, okay? So you're inhaling up, exhaling back. Now, if you're tight on both sides, do it on both sides. I'm tight on both sides, but I'm more tight to the right, so I usually start going to the right, and then if I run out of time or I get distracted, then if I don't come back to the left, at least I got that side, you know? But I'm mindful, like during the day, I'm always trying to go this way, my right. You can also do it, you guys know what thread the needle is in yoga? You ever heard of that? All right, so in thread the needle, thread the needle is like, you go like this, and then you come back and you rotate your arm up. But you can also do rows. Now, if you can control this, you talked about this in Olivia, you can make sure they're doing this, you know, making sure that your abdomen isn't bulging, but it's tucked in and drawn in. Okay, so I do rows a lot of times this way. Exhaling as I do it. You need to put a weight in your hand or a band to resist it, okay? So that is another way to do it, but to get thoracic rotation is really important.
Another thing, you could get up on a cabinet so you're not on all fours and kind of just do that if you've got a really, if your diastasis is coning or bulging, and just kind of do it that way. Does that make sense? So you're not all on all fours, and sometimes that will work too.
Yeah, I mean, as long as it's diastasis friendly and all that. Okay, and then the other one is your hips. You want to make sure your hips are open. So you lie on your back. I have my head up just to show you, but lie flat on your back. One knee up on the other leg, like right on your knee, and drop it down. Okay? And then do the same with the other leg. One side will probably be tighter. If you have like pulling in your back, then one hip's probably tighter than the other, but it's not always on the same side that you think it would be. So if your pain's on the left, for example, it doesn't mean your left hip's going to be tight. The right one could be tight. It's pulling on it abnormally because there's this cross pattern thing that goes on. So you just want to make sure your hips are mobile. And if your hips are not mobile, let me show you what I do. Well, first, a side plank. On your side, over hips and knees in a straight line, and then you come up on your elbow, and you're working this. And again, making sure you're not bulging there. And you hold it for 10 seconds, okay? Then recheck, go like this, and you'll be amazed that your hip will open up. Okay, because what you're doing there is you're telling your brain that your core is the one that's supposed to hold you together, not your hips. So it's a dysfunction that the hips are holding you together in the absence of this core doing its job. Both sides check it. So a side plank will help open up the hips, and then the other two things that you could do is to sit with one leg, like you just sit like maybe on a a coffee table or an ottoman or like I'm on a table or a countertop you could do. So my left hip doesn't want to drop, okay? It's kind of stuck. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to reach with my opposite arm, my weight on both sit bones. I'm going to push that down and turn and twist and look at my hip. Okay? So I'm opening up my hip when I do that. Okay? Now this one just goes down easy. So can you see? My left one's tight. So I need to do this before I get started on my day. I'm going to do it while I'm talking to you. If that doesn't get fixed, then I end up with knee pain. Like my knee will hurt on that side because that muscle goes all the way down my leg. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
So to open up the hips, side planks. That's I call that a sacral correction, but you can do call it what you want. And then these are Pilates knee stirs. What you do is you bring one knee up, take your hand, and you use your arm to make circles, clockwise and counterclockwise, 8 to 10 of them. Okay, and as you get more flexible, you can open up the range and go bigger. Okay, if you get a click or a pop, then just make it a smaller motion, like a smaller arc, and then go the other way. So what you're doing is you're moving the ball in the socket of the hip as you do that, okay? So it's called a knee stir, but it's really a hip stir. You're stirring your hip, okay? So those are 3 ways to open up the hip, and then the thoracic spine too. And then, you know, then your core, like the stuff Olivia gives you to do, will work better. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah. All right.
All right. I feel like I did all the talking and I don't have
You
time
did
for
great.
questions.
It was great.
If you guys have questions, steal them through Olivia and then I'll answer them back. So, yeah. So I think that was a good introduction. And then like everything we do is really to keep that moving and keep things moving, because if something's stuck, you're going to struggle. You're going to struggle with everything that you're working on at home with the exercise.
Yeah. Awesome. Thank you, Janine.
All right.
Thank you.
Have an amazing day. Okay, ladies. So if y'all have questions through all this, just let me know and we'll do it the next call or something. Okay.
Okay.
All right. Bye, y'all.
Bye.
Bye. Good day. Get out of here. I never know how to get out. Leaving it.